911, what's the address of your emergency?
I'm out here at Stilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street.
I hope that in losing Ahmaud, people that look like Ahmaud will be able to jog, they'll be able to run, and not to be worried about being chased with guns and killed.
We actually did not find out that this was the exact location until we bought the house.
When the world moves on, some people don't get to move on. Some people mean the family members.
You can intentionally and deliberately kill another person in self-defense and not have committed murder. You would be not guilty.
And it's still self-defense if they chased him?
They made their decision to attack Ahmaud Arbery in their driveways because he was a black man.
I know it was racially motivated. How long are we going to have a system that protects those people?
Ahmaud was trying to make it home. He was doing everything that he could to make it home.
Ahmaud was easygoing. He didn't like problems with anyone. We laughed a lot. I am Ahmaud's older sister. I like to put emphasis on older because we're a year apart and a lot of people thought we were twins. The family calls him Quez. This is actually the most I've ever called him Ahmaud in my entire life. His middle name is Marquez and it's for short and we just called him Quez. We took it really hard when we lost Quez because it was our little baby, basically. You would hate that I called him that, but yesterday there was like a protest going on and I found myself looking at this picture of my brother's face. I found myself just staring off like, is this real? Like, it's not just a hashtag to me. This is actually a person I know and I love dearly.
The trial of 3 men accused of murdering a black man while he was out jogging has begun today in the US state of Georgia. Our North America correspondent Alim Makboul is in Georgia for us now. Alim.
I met the mother of Ahmaud Arbery before the trial started. She said she had never seen that video. Well, one of the most emotional, upsetting moments of the trial today was hearing her anguished cry as she watched that video for the first time.
On February the 23rd, 2020, Ahmaud Arbery left his home in Brunswick, Georgia for an afternoon run, but never made it back. On a jog through the quiet neighborhood of Stilla Shores, Ahmaud entered a home under construction and walked around before resuming his run. Only now, men were chasing him. Travis McMichael and his father Greg grabbed guns, jumped in their truck, and tailed Ahmaud through winding streets. They would later say he looked like a burglary suspect.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I'm out here at Stilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street.
Roddy Bryan, another neighbor, jumped in his truck and started filming the encounter. Ahmaud was cornered. Travis got out of the truck with a shotgun. There's a scuffle, and then...
Stop right there! Damn it! Stop! Travis!
Sir, hello, sir.
Travis McMichael shot Ahmaud Arbery once, injuring him, and then shot him twice more. Police statements show he uttered a terrible racial slur as Ahmaud lay dying.
My mom called. She asked me, was I sitting down? And I knew it was some bad news. And she told me, and I immediately thought that she was telling a story to me. This can't be real. This can't be happening to my brother. It couldn't happen to me. I felt that it was unreal.
Well, sadly, murals of unarmed black men who've been shot and killed are now dotted in towns and cities right across this country. But in Ahmaud Arbery's case, he didn't die at the hands of the police, but at the hands of people who believed they had the right to act as an extension of law enforcement and do what they like.
I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and along with my wife and co-counsel Laura Hogue, we represent Greg McMichael. You can intentionally and deliberately kill another person in self-defense and not have committed murder. You would be not guilty.
And it's still self-defense if they chased him?
That's because they were attempting to execute a citizen's arrest. They weren't chasing him in order to murder him. They were chasing him in order to detain him.
Even though there was no evidence Ahmaud committed a crime. And this is shocking. After the shooting, Glenn County Police swarmed the scene, but instead of helping Ahmaud, who was still alive, they comfort the McMichaels.
I know. Just breathe, okay?
Yeah, he struck me a few times.
Okay, well,
but
let him look at you.
Okay.
You're okay, sir. Like I said, I can only imagine. I hope I never have to understand what you feel right now.
Y'all don't put him in cuffs, are you?
No. Why would he be in cuffs?
I was never surprised that 13 officers descended upon a location. They never secured the scene. They never preserved evidence, and they never attended the victim because he was never seen as a victim. Black people in Glenn County are rarely seen as the victim. And because you're not seen as the victim, it's hard for you to get justice.
The McMichaels and Roddy Bryan were not arrested for 74 days after killing Ahmaud Arbery. It turned out Greg McMichael, a former police officer, had worked for the district attorney's office. It took an outcry from the community and 3 separate district attorneys before the men were arrested and charged.
If it wasn't for the efforts of the people here in this community, Ahmaud would just be another dead black man. That video doesn't show everything that happened in that day. What happened in that day was a lot of systems collided to take his life.
But not everyone sees it that way. Many residents in Satilla Shores view this as an unfortunate tragedy. Lynn and Tom moved into the neighborhood in March.
We actually did not find out that this was the exact location until we bought the house. We knew it was in the general area, but we didn't realize that our driveway would be seen on every television.
It's one of those neighborhoods they bring in a tray of cookies when you arrive and introduce themselves, and it's just that type of neighborhood.
There's a question of whether or not people think this was racially motivated. Do you guys think that's the case?
Yeah, we wouldn't know.
That's what I was going to say too. We wouldn't know because we don't know what was in the minds of the 3 men who were involved with this. I know the South has a reputation of that.
Well, to try to understand why this happened, you need to understand where we are and the history of this place, where enslaved people, including Ahmaud's ancestors, were held captive long before America was even a country.
Every state in the South had a statute that permitted white people to capture black people during the slavery era. After the slavery era, you had the Ku Klux Klan, you had all sorts of citizens groups that felt perfectly authorized to capture any black person who was outside of the place where they were supposed to be.
Jim, a local lawyer, was one of those who spoke out after the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, writing about it in the local press.
I think we can assume that people have learned to see black men as a threat. White people have learned that over time, and that they were therefore justified in doing whatever they needed to do to stop that threat. You can see it in the defense lawyers' arguments.
No one but Ahmaud Arbery made the decision not to stop. He chose to fight.
People would look at Quase's face and say that he's an intruder or he was going in to take someone out of home. This is not the Quase that I see when I look into his face. Even now, look at his pictures and I look at him like, this is my little brother. How could someone paint this guy to be a bad person?
That trial continues. One of the men that was involved in that killing, the man in fact who pulled the trigger, is currently on the stand in a case that many around this country consider a modern day lynching.
As he's running towards you at this moment, what are you thinking? that I'm pretty sure that he is going to attack.
You could have just let him run away.
Could have and did after I realized that he was not going to talk to me and turn around.
And you could have stayed in your truck over on Holmes Drive, right?
Could have, yes.
We contacted the family of the McMichaels, but they said they were too anxious to speak before a verdict. The three men will also face a separate hate crimes trial, and while prosecutors chose not to make race a central issue of the murder trial, locals say the spectre of racism has been a constant presence.
I have brought my sons up to understand the history of the place in which they live, but I haven't had to bring my sons up to have a talk with them about what neighborhoods they can run in and where they can go. They're raised to be fearless. That's a luxury that they have and that I have that my neighbors don't have.
I'm a father of 5 sons, but here are the rules. Make it home. Ahmaud was trying to make it home. They refused for him to go home. They said, you're either going to jail or you're going to the grave. Those are your only options out of this neighborhood. Headed to the one Confederate monument here in Glenn County. It was erected in 1908 by the Daughters of the Confederacy. There's a jury that is 11 white people, 1 black person. They have to see things as they are and not through a lens of protectionism that exists for white people and has existed for white people in this country.
Madam Foreperson, I understand you have reached a verdict as to each defendant.
We have.
The State of Georgia versus Travis McMichael, count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. Count 2, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty.
Well, there may still be questions about the way the police behaved after this killing, questions about the underlying issues surrounding race in the society that contributed to the killing. But for now, at least, all of those who for months have been calling for justice for Ahmaud Arbery, there is just a huge sense of relief.
To tell you the truth, I never saw this day back in 2020. I never thought this day would come. But God is good. Whereas he will now rest in peace.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My mom has always been this lady that took on a lot. So to get to this point, I feel like it will be a part of her that will rest along with Ahmaud. Even though when the world moves on, some people don't get to move on. And those some people mean the family members. I want the world to know that Ahmaud was deserving of so much more than what happened to him that day. He was a human, and we loved him as such. I do want the world to know that Ahmaud is loved.